everybody. Welcome back to the latest edition of Terrace Talk. Of course, it's Blackburn Rovers, Sunday lunchtime this week. I suppose a difficult one for the Rovers fans travelling down to Norwich. A very early kickoff on a Sunday, given the TV pickings for this weekend. With that, delighted to be joined by Daniel Ainsworth from the Rovers Chat. Dan, first and foremost, thanks for coming on the show this evening. We're going to get straight into it. 12th in the league, 19 points. Looking in from afar, maybe Blackburn, it feels like inconsistencies the issue. Sort of, you seem like you got a really good run of wins on the bounce and then maybe lose quite a few on the bounce. So what would you make of the first 14 games of the season?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me on. It's been a very strange season. We came into the summer quite optimistic after last year. Obviously, we played late on in the year. You beat us, and that was one of the reasons Rovers didn't make the playoffs. So we come into this year thinking a couple of additions. You bolster that squad from just missing out on the playoffs to being a playoff side. But it were all going well. We had 3 signings in by the end of June, which is, I'd say, the first time in forever that Rovers have made early signings like that. We normally leave it till August. And then everything seems to be going well, and then news comes out that the owners are struggling financially due to tax issues in India, which kind of meant that we've gone from this state of 3 signings in, we've got everything planned for the rest of the window, we can go and get who we want, such as Danny Baff, who was linked with us so many times. And then suddenly the finance went, so Rovers' plans were put on hold. The manager starts talking about moving on and kind of hinting that he wants to leave. So we had an inconsistent summer, and it's kind of come into the season. Like you say, we win games, we lose them in a row. I think we lost 4 in a row, then we won 3 in a row, and then lost to Swansea last at them. So a very mixed year, a typical Rovers year so far, I'd say. But on the face of it, I'd say it's been a pretty good year, and we're doing well in the standing, especially after the summer we had.
Yeah, you said 7th place last season, just missed out on goal difference on the last day of the season. Disappointment, I suppose. But where is the bar this season for Rovers? Is it trying to push into those playoffs again, or maybe given those financial constraints you've spoken about there, is it maybe a bit lower this season?
I think if we could replicate something close to last year, John Dahl would have done a pretty good job. I'd probably say anywhere in that pack between 7th and 14th. We know there's not much really between it when you come to the end of the year, and I don't imagine it'll be much different this year. I think as long as we're not, I've said all season, if we're not in any danger at all of being in that bottom 8 pack, that bottom 9 pack, I'd be happy. If the financial situation changes into January and the owners are allowed to put money into the club, then maybe the expectations go up, because I feel we're just a striker short of being up there. So if we're allowed to go and get someone, then that bar will raise automatically.
Yeah, John Dahl Thomason been in charge now for just over 18 months roughly, and seems like he's done a pretty good job. You know, you mentioned the 7th place finish last season. Sort of feels like you got a good stepping stone this season to try and build off moving into sort of the second half of the season. And so what do you make of him, and what do the Rovers fans make of him? How sort of highly regarded has he been from sort of the job he's done so far?
Oh, he's absolutely loved at the club. John Dahl came in at a time when we lost Tony Mowbray after 5.5 years, which, as everyone will know, that's a long, long time for a manager, especially at this level. So we was in a position where last year had to be a transition year, as it was described many times, a project. Rovers fans love him. He's got us playing football, what people would call the right way. We get results out of it. Don't get me wrong, there's frustrations when he won't change his way or he won't make a substitution. But overall, he's come into a club where he's had his hands tied financially this year, and we're still potentially discussing a playoff talk. If this were under Mowbray, with all credit to him, I feel we'd be discussing, can Rovers stay away from relegation? It never feels like that with John Dahl. So very much appreciated. He speaks highly of the fans. He's just got everything, and for me, he'll go on to be something. He won't be the Rovers manager this time next year, in my eyes.
Yeah, you spoke about the summer business quite early there. Lots of signings through the door around the June period. You lost the likes of sort of Ash Phillips, Bradley Dack, Brereton Diaz, some relatively high regarded names in the Championship and Blackburn especially. So in terms of the incomings, the likes of James Hill, Andy Moran, lots of players from overseas, which ones maybe stood out the most out of that pack so far?
James Hill would probably be the one. Came on loan from Bournemouth. I believe it was on deadline day, maybe the day before. Took his time to get into the side because we don't like to make a lot of changes. We won't force anyone in. But he got his chance at right back, and for me, he's probably been the player of the season from there on in. Really commanding, probably the only bit of aerial presence we have in the side. We're quite a small team. He kind of adds that bit of extra height, and he just looks a level above. He looks like he could be playing at Bournemouth. Whether they have an option to recall him in January might be another worry of Rovers that, given their situation, they probably need defenders. Arno Sigurdsson's coming on loan from CSKA Moscow. Given all the stuff happening there, he's kind of come on a temporary contract. It's kind of hard to explain, but he's shown flashes of it. We know he's talented. He played for Moscow on the biggest stage. He's scored against Real Madrid. So he's one that kind of lost his way because of everything going on over in Russia. So we've had this opportunity to get him. And he's had a few off games, but I think he's the kind of player that can change a game, which Rovers don't have many of. Andy Moran's done well on loan as well. Sondre Tronstad's made his way into the team. He's a midfielder that's maybe a more typical championship holding midfielder, maybe not the best technically, but he'll win the ball back a bit. Ben Pearson, like, if you had to compare him to someone, just maybe a little less of the yellow cards and that. But ultimately, it's been a pretty good transfer window. Rovers have got the players they needed, except for that striker that I alluded to before.
Yeah, player was here before. He seems to be getting the headlines a little bit this season. Sammy Smodic, 7 goals, 2 assists. From afar, looks like he's maybe the star man in the Blackburn's side. Is that a fair representation? And what have you made of him so far this season?
Yeah, definitely. Smodic is an interesting one. He arrived with not a lot of fanfare for, I believe it were a couple of million, which are a lot for Rovers. We don't spend that normally. And it took him time to get into the team, but once he really displaced Bradley Dack from having any future at the club, which I think kind of sums up how well Smodic has done. He is a doubt for Sunday. He did miss the game at Chelsea due to, I think it was injury or maybe just tiredness, but he'll probably be back involved. But he's just been key. He's the man that, I think, although he gets them 7 goals and them 2 assists, he does a lot more off the ball that isn't really recognised by numbers. It's recognised by the eye test. We rely on a lot of pressing up front, and he's the man who, when it comes to the 85th minute, he'll still be pressing, still be going after the ball. So he's influential to Rovers both on the ball, off the ball, and off the pitch as well. He's quite experienced for a side that I think our average age is something like 23, 24. We don't have many leaders as such, but Sammy's really stepped up, and hopefully he can, push his way on, get into the 10-goal category, and then maybe move on to 15 and, try and push himself on from there.
Yeah, there's a few connections in the central defence between Norwich and Blackburn. You mentioned Danny Bart, who nearly joined Blackburn. He arrived at Norwich and hasn't really featured so far. But, of course, Grant Hanley, who unfortunately went off injured against Blackburn in the reverse fixture last season. Haywood Park hasn't played since. Doesn't like his recovery is going well. But the man I wanted to talk about is Shane Duffy. He's got a few question marks from Norwich fans of late. A pretty poor performance from him against Sunderland last week. Gave away the 3rd goal. 69 appearances, I think it was, for Blackburn, sort of made a decent break in his career at Haywood Park. So how fondly is he remembered by Rovers fans, and will he get a good reception on Sunday afternoon, I suppose?
He'll get booed every touch he takes. Duffy was he came into the side at a time when Rovers were quite on the rocks in terms of the club as well, on an outside perspective, and did really well, built his way into the side, and then on his second to last game for the club before he forced a move, he scored 2 own goals and got sent off in a loss at Cardiff. If anyone's not watched the highlights of that, go and watch it, because they look like the most blatantly obvious own goals in the world, like he put it in himself. But if I give Shane Duffy any praise on here, I'll get absolutely slaughtered off Rovers fans. He's one that will certainly get booed on Saturday and on Sunday, sorry. Not the time. Grant Hanley on another matter is very, very much appreciated by Rovers fans.
Yeah, I think there'll be a few boos for David Wagner if Norwich don't get a positive result on Sunday lunchtime. Is that maybe a benefit or a sort of, I suppose, a downfall for Rovers coming into this game on Sunday? There's a lot of pressure mounting on David Wagner's shoulders, a really poor run of form and 17th in the league at the moment. And it feels like a club in a little bit of free fall, Norwich. How do you maybe sort of view that one? Is it kind of that element where if you get the early goal, the Carrow crowd might turn against the team and Blackburn can, I suppose, benefit from that?
It feels quite a lot like last year, actually, when Dean Smith were in charge. I know the boos were ringing out there. I think because of last year's game, we kind of see this as a positive, that we're playing a manager that's under pressure. Rovers like to go out early on. We will in the first 15 minutes. No matter what the score ends, we'll probably go and have 80% of the ball. We'll have a lot of chances. We're really dominant in the first 15. if we can get that early goal, which we probably lacked in a few games, the Swansea game, Sunderland, who we lost 3-1 to, Rovers played the best 15 minutes I've probably seen under the manager. If we can go out and get that early goal, I feel like this could be a game that the crowd turns, Rovers get up, because if Rovers, we're very, like every side really, but we're very much a confident side. If that early goal goes in, we can go and get a second, back us to keep scoring. If we miss them chances in the first 15, I feel like this game could turn. I'm glad you've got him rather than you don't have him, because we seem to always play teams without managers. But I'd much rather him be in a bit of a situation where he's on a level playing field. I think we'll be fine if we get that early goal, but it's a big if. We haven't done it enough this year.
Yeah, just turning the attention now forward to the game. How do you expect Rovers to set up this one? Is there maybe a set of formation that Joel tends to go for?
Yeah, it will be a 4-2-3-1 that kind of becomes a 4-3-3. We'll probably have Volstead in there, Hill. We have our centre-backs out, actually. Both our main centre-backs are out, so I'm not sure how we work it. We'll probably put Britton at right-back, Hill and Wharton centre-back, Pickering left-back. We've got a midfield two of Tronstad and Joe Rankin-Costello. Tronstad, you sit in midfielder, you tackle him. Joe Rankin-Costello is your free player that kind of gets forward. Wingers will probably have Sigurdsson, Dolan, maybe Smodic if he's fit, or Andy Moran, and then you'll probably see Harry Leonard lead the line. So it's quite an inexperienced side. Like I say, John Doe likes his press. He likes to come out the blocks quickly, try and get an early goal. Then you'll see a side from Rovers that'll probably let Norwich have the ball. We'll try and hit you on the counter attack. We don't, I think in a difference from last year, we don't want to try and play the ball around you. We're not a team that's got the players to do 30 passes, put it in. We're a team that uses what we have, and that's pace, that's explosiveness going forward. We've got Joe Rankin-Costello, like I mentioned, in the midfield that really is that transition man. If you can have a man that marks him out the game, you'll have a much better chance on Sunday. So I expect a side that come out quick, then sit back, kind of soak up the pressure, and then hopefully hit on the counter and hopefully get a goal like worked well last year with that second goal that Dolan scored. So I think we'll go for something quite similar.
Yeah, going to put you on the spot for a score prediction, how you see this game going down. I think I'm feeling quite pessimistic. I think most of the Norwich fans are feeling pessimistic. So are you going to bring some optimism from the Blackburn end?
Yeah, I've got to go positive. I think we'll win 2-1. I don't think it'll be an easy game by any means. I feel that it's that early goal. Like I say, Rovers have got two different sides in them. If the first 15 goes to plan, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I said we could be 2 or 3-0 up. But alternatively, if it doesn't go to plan, then the ball's in Norwich's court. So I'll go for 2-1 Rovers, but I'm semi-confident. I won't say I'm fully confident of it being a win.
Yeah, I could see a similar outcome, unfortunately. So we'll see what we get. Just finally, Dan, do you want to plug where Blackburn and Norwich fans can find your content on YouTube?
Yeah, if anyone wants to check us out, it's Rovers Chat on YouTube. Twitter is Rovers Chat _. Go and check us out. Plenty of content. We'll be sitting down with Adam as well and getting a Norwich view. So come over. There'll be a podcast out on Monday as well that's kind of like the final sum up of the game. You know, we do a straight reaction after the game, and then we also do a bit of a let's sit down and calm down and actually look how the game went.
There we go. Really do appreciate your time this evening, Dan. With that, we're going to round off the show. Of course, we'll be at Carrow Road on Sunday lunchtime. Team news will be out at 11 o'clock, so you can join us live on the Pink 'Un channels at 11 a.m. David Wagner's press conference is tomorrow, so by the time you're watching this, he will be speaking to the media. So I'm intrigued to see all the sort of team news and what he's got to say ahead of what feels like a really big game for him and his Norwich City future.